Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today I'm going to take a deep dive into the idea that you should be playing Skyrim and you should be hoping for an Elder Scrolls tabletop role playing game. So, why do I say this? Well, obviously, there's a lot going on in the hobby right now, the tabletop role playing hobby, where seemingly Wizards of the Coast is looking to push out third party developers and even third party players and or GMs and DMs. So collectively, they're pushing against the whole rest of the industry through that OGL and through the rescinding of, at least they're making the attempt to rescind that OGL. So it did remind me that my channel is Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review, and the Unchained came out of um, the Age of Conan Unchained. That's where I kind of got it from. It was supposed to be unscripted, like just off the cuff commentary that I do on here. I don't do multiple takes or anything like that. It's just straight off the top of my head. I don't have a script or anything. And then the Unchained was an unvarnished presentation. Sometimes that appeals to people, sometimes that doesn't. But the the channel has always been dedicated to role playing games, whether they be tabletop role playing games or computer role playing games or on your tablet or on your cell phone or whatever. It never mattered, at least to me, what what mode you were accessing a role playing game. Now, of course, I focus mostly on tabletop because that's where my introduction to role playing games began. But I've always been a huge fan of console and computer role playing games. I literally left the tabletop role playing game as a hobby in the late 1980s and moved over to consoles, and then from consoles to computer role playing games, and then from just straight up CRPGs to MMORPGs, and then back to tabletop role playing games, and perhaps back again to computer role playing games. So as you can see, when you have nearly 40 plus years in a hobby that has multiple assets, or aspects, I should say, you'll stay with one for a while and then move to another, and then maybe you'll revisit and go back and forth. Throughout your lifetime of gaming, you're going to expand your interests in different areas, and sometimes there'll be all new areas, and you'll also revisit those places where you had the most amount of joy. And so that brings me back to Skyrim. So I I have been a fan of the Elder Scrolls series ever since Daggerfall. That was my introduction to it. It was one of the scariest games I've ever played, and just super challenging. I even got one of those Logitech mouse ball mouses, so that because you had to physically swing your sword, and the ball helped you actually do the directional attacks of your attacks. It was awesome. And then we went on to, and I'll probably get them out of order. They then went on to Morrowind, I'm pretty sure, and then Oblivion, and then Skyrim. So Skyrim is Elder Scrolls 5, and I recently just started playing it again after some time, and I after quite a few months, I guess. And the lapse between that and previously was probably a couple of years. So I started replaying this again, and it reminded me of how incredible this game really is. And for the first time, and I already have the first two videos up there, for the first time, I'm playing a magic user, and I'm playing a magic user that is eventually going to become a vampire. And I've modeled her after a Robert E. Howard character, Akivasha, which was in The Hour of the Dragon, which I spoke about in the video as well. And the Elder Scrolls setting and just the the imagery and the tone of it when you're in the game, from the music to the visuals to everything that's going on, is just so um, well connected to kind of a darker fantasy like Robert E. Howard's writings or others as well, that I think it would translate so well to a tabletop role playing game that you know it might very quickly become the leading role playing game in the fantasy genre that's out there. I mean, it would slay D&D 5e or whatever they're working on for 6e. At least in my opinion, it would be untouchable. Um, in comparison to it. So as I'm playing through recently with the game itself, I was like, I know I have some books on this. So let me just show you what I have here, and I'm just gonna go through Skyrim at this point. So I got stuck on a part in it. There's a puzzle that I have to solve, and but I kept on saying to myself, I know I have this buried someplace. So here is the official guide to Skyrim. It is 600 pages long, 600 plus pages long, and I mean the artwork is phenomenal, always has been. And as I started going through this, and looking through here, between the story and the lore and the character development, whether it be the races or the classes that it has no attribute scores. It's a skill based system, and you can start to hear like some of the key terms that I'm using that make it where it would be exempt from the OGL, wouldn't have to follow one because it is not Dungeons and Dragons or even a derivative of Dungeons and Dragons. It is its own game. And if they converted this 600 pages, which I know is, most of it is walkthroughs for adventures and maps and such. But if they converted just the rules and the lore, the world building that exists in this, then you you would have a complete game system that you can then run with and play. Now, when I said world lore, you can't just take Skyrim. This is just one segment of the entire world of Tamriel. You'd also have to include what was in Oblivion and Morrowind and Daggerfall and so on and so forth. So there are probably, just in world building alone, um, probably five volumes of this length, and let's say they're each 300 pages of lore content that could be derived from it. You have well over 1,000, if not maybe 1,500 pages of lore. One of the things I remember most about having the original Daggerfall was that you could actually go into the program's library, into its file, and you could actually print out. And I did this actually. I printed out every single story and excerpt that was in the various books that you could find in the game, and literally cut and paste them and printed them out. And I had a binder one time with well over 400 stories and excerpts and everything from all of the books from both Daggerfall and then later on from Morrowind as well. And that's the amount of lore and world building that Bethesda, a computer game uh, developer, put into the story of their game, that it really is something that deserves to be picked up as a tabletop role playing game. And whomever I should say, picks up that license, and it appears to be leaning towards Modifius, they're going to hit it out of the ballpark. I mean, this is going to be a major, major um, game changer, for for the tabletop role playing industry. So I'm hoping that as and I'm going to switch screens here. I'm hoping that as Wizards of the Coast flounders, because there's no other way to look at it than the fact that they're floundering, that Modifius can sit down with Bethesda and say, all right, we've made skirmish games. We've just made a board game, that we're working on with you and is due out very soon. Um, we want the rights for a tabletop role playing game. And if they were using a skill based system, and they were using, whether it be their D20 or their 2D20 system or whatever, I think that it will be astounding, and like I said, a true game changer to the hobby, because a you would have a game that a tabletop role playing game with a built in fan base to not just Skyrim, but all of Elder Scrolls. I'm not saying they should make a Skyrim tabletop role playing game. They should make an Elder Scrolls tabletop role playing game. Now, Skyrim might be the place where they start off in, or they could start off anywhere and have different, different regions where you would start off in based on the character race that you chose. But I think it's just something. It's time. It's time for there to be an IP that can truly challenge Dungeons and Dragons, and beat it at its own, beat it on its own terms, as far as having a multi-platform um, game already. They already have the video games. They already have the MMOs for Elder Scrolls. They already have some novelization. That's the one area where I think Elder Scrolls needs to go a little bit more. So is in a novelization. They have so much lore packed into their games, and actually digitally in their games. I mean, you can open up all kinds of books, and there's tons of little snippets of stories and everything in there. Um, that's the one area where I think Bethesda needs to pick up, and get some more books out there. I think there's only two novels, and they're fairly short novels that are out there set in the Elder Scrolls universe. And so that's someplace where they do need to expand on. But they already have, like I said, the computer RPG, they have the MMO, uh, they have tabletop games such as board games and skirmish war games and such like that. They need a tabletop role playing game. So, hey, hit the iron when it's hot, and let's see some stuff turning out there. You will see more Skyrim from me on my channel. Like I said, I've been doing what I'm calling Skyrim Saturdays, and I'll do them in half-hour snippets of gameplay with my character now, Akavasha, who's a female character I never played before, a magic user which I never played before in Skyrim, and planning on becoming a vampire, which I've never done in Skyrim. I'm pretty sure my character became a vampire in Morrowind or possibly Oblivion. But I never did it in Skyrim before. So it's something I'm looking to see how that works out, and follow along. And I'm going to actually start going through and breaking down this book for you, going over it, and I'm going to approach it from the idea that this could easily be converted into a tabletop role playing game, and so um, yeah, so you'll start to see more content from that. It's not that I'm avoiding content that could be OSR non-compliant. Um, I'm still going to continue doing reviews and playing the games that I play, but I am going to show a little bit more of computer RPGs, which I have kind of slumped off with for a while now. So I do want to get back to that. Also, as a note for the channel, I stopped doing the Dungeon 23, not because I want to stop doing it, but because I was having some computer problems last week, and it kind of threw me off. I will get back to doing those. I think I should be up to room 9 by today, and I left off at room 4, so I will do a catch up of the last 5 days worth of dungeon building, and then I'll go over that and kind of wrap them up into one video, and I will probably do that on I'll probably do that tomorrow, since I have to get ready to leave for work soon. So that will probably come tomorrow, and I'll do a real quick, show off. I have 2 games running tomorrow as well. I have Vigilante City game and tomorrow morning, and then at nighttime I have or evening I should say, I have my AD&D First Edition uh, game going. So I have a lot of gaming tomorrow, and I'm going to try to squeeze in doing a video of catching up on the one dungeon a day, one room a day, I should say, one room of the dungeon a day for that. Someone else also brought up to me the idea of doing the Gygax 75 challenge, and I really have no interest in world building at this point. I do more world modifying at this point when I'm running a game. So I'm playing I'm running a World of Greyhawk campaign based AD&D First Edition, and I am modifying what Greyhawk lays out there as far as the lore and the history of the place, and the present of that world. So yeah, I've dabbled with doing world building, and I don't like starting from scratch with my own. I like to just take something that's already there and altering it. So that's enough rambling at the end. Thanks for joining. I hope you liked this video, and I hope that you continue watching the series on both Skyrim and Elder Scrolls more broadly in the near future. And keep on looking for those Saturday drops of the 30-minute drops. There'll probably be 2 or 3 of them over the span of the weekend. They'll start on Saturday. There'll probably be 2 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Really depends on how many 30-minute blocks I can get while playing the game, and get those prepared to roll. I do actually have one ready to roll right now, and that will be dropped in on Saturday morning. So enjoy the rest of your week. I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. You stay healthy and safe, and keep on gaming out there. And don't let this recent news, push you off from doing what you would normally do. Keep on playing your games. Keep on writing if you're writing. I just wouldn't put too much into it at this point. If it is an OGL compliant document, I would look at ways to clean it up and make sure that it doesn't have to be. and then move forward like that. So, as always, thanks for joining. Have a great afternoon. Take care.